So it's good to hang around Marco here, who's the president of FIM Africa, on the very first day of Motorsport of African Nations here at Donnybrook Park. Marco, welcome to Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Justin. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, no, this is the homecoming for this competition once again because it began here a couple of years ago. But Marco is here to just tell us the history of how this competition began right here in Zimbabwe.
Well, the Motocross of African Nations started in Harare at this very same track in 1999. It was called the AMU Continental Championship. AMU was the name of our continent, Africa Motorcycle Union. And then a few years later, the FIM asked us to change our name to FIM Africa so that it aligned with the other continents. So now you have FIM Europe, FIM Africa, FIM North America, FIM Latin America, FIM Asia, and FIM Oceania, which is Australia. So by having the Continental Union, which started in 1999, the other African federations decided to affiliate to FIM. So it started with only a few federations in Africa, about 4, and now we're up to 18 federations in Africa, which are members of FIM. Not all 18 are racing motocross because you have federations from North Africa which do desert racing, sand racing, cross-country, Dakar type, and this event is motocross. And motocross is a particular event which has become very popular in southern and eastern Africa. So that's why you see 8 countries from southern and east Africa here today for the Motocross of African Nations. This event, which we developed, started in 1999, like I've said, and it's been run most years. So we're now in the 23rd edition. It has grown to 8 countries, 145 riders, and we are very happy to be back in Harare, which for me is the home of motocross. Zimbabwe and South Africa are the home of motocross, and the countries around this region have also taken this sport to their hearts and passion.
Now, Marco, more than 2 decades of motorsport in Africa. You are the president. What is your vision? What would you want to see happening in the motorsport industry in Africa?
Okay, well, as you know, motorcycling has many disciplines. You've heard of MotoGP, Valentino Rossi. So all these are different. There's about 20 different disciplines. In Africa, the main discipline is motocross, enduro, hard enduro, and cross-country. Those are the main ones. And then circuit racing in a few of the more developed countries like South Africa and Zimbabwe have got circuit racing, which is a lot more different kind of sport, but not as popular as motocross. Motocross and enduro are the 2 most popular sports, and we have this event which has become the most popular of our continental events, because all the federations have their own national events. But in terms of a continental event for the whole of Africa, this is the biggest. And motocross is raced in nearly every country in Africa, even the ones which are not federated or members of FIM. They still race motocross. One day they'll become members of FIM. And so this sport will grow. It has grown from 4 countries to 6 to 8. And we're now 18 federations. So from the 18, we will see possibly 10 countries next year. Because next year we are moving to, I can't tell you now.
You could tell me, Marco. You could tell me it's safe. It's safe with me.
We know where it's going to. It's supposed to be Kenya, but Kenya have decided to wait another year. There'll be another country which we will announce tomorrow night. But it'll probably stay in the home of motocross in terms of region.
All right, Marco, speaking of growth, we've seen that you say that it began with only 4 countries, but now you've jumped to 8 countries. What exactly are you doing to ensure that at the grassroots development of young people getting into sport recruitment, and so that a sport that doesn't have strong grassroots structures will likely struggle in future? What are you doing to ensure that this sport becomes popular or reaches many people in Africa?
Okay, let's take a case study. Let's take Uganda, for example. If you go back to an event that was the Motocross of African Nations that was in Zimbabwe about 20 years ago. Zimbabwe arrived on a minibus with 4 riders. On a minibus with 4 riders. And they came here and they saw the level and standard and quality of motocross. They went back with a mission to become one of the biggest motocross nations in Africa. And they have achieved that. They are nearly there. They are here today with 36 riders. 36. And it's not just, this sport is usually practiced by expatriate people, by people that have origins coming from Europe, because motorcycle racing always came from Europe. It came from Italy and France and Belgium and Spain. And that's where, if you watch the World Championships, that's where the riders come from. And that's why, historically, it was those kind of people that were racing motocross. Others were playing soccer or something. But now, Uganda has changed that completely. And we are proud of Uganda. We want to copy Uganda. I'm from Zambia. I'm born in Zambia. I'm Zambian. We want to copy the Ugandan model. To bring 36 riders at a big cost all the way here. Very impressive. And how did they do it? Grassroots. They got funds from their government to bring out little small motorbikes and bring in people to practice, to train. They brought out trainers from South Africa, trainers from America. They, being a federation of FIM, they could borrow 50% of their projects from FIM. So if you have a project of, say, 50,000 euros, and the project is to develop motorcycling or motocross, as a FIM member, you can apply to FIM and get those funding. But you've got to supply the other 50% first, okay? And that's how it works. And that's developed in Uganda. It's helped a lot of countries in Africa.
Talking on a global scale, what challenges does our African riders, our continental riders, likely face in their sporting experience? And you as a continental body, what are you doing to address some of those challenges?
Okay, so you're talking about the next level up from continental level to world level. Is that what you're saying? Okay, we've seen quite a few riders from South Africa manage to become world champions and go out to Europe to race the world championships in this sport, motocross. It's not an easy thing to do because it means a lot of sacrifices. So what's happened, by coming to this continental event, the riders can decide as youngsters if they want to pursue this dream. If they do, then the best thing would be to come and race in South Africa, because the level in South Africa is the highest in Africa. And we often have riders from Botswana, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Kenya racing in South Africa. That elevates their level because it's a very tough sport and requires a lot of dedication and a lot of training and a lot of commitment from the parents, from the families. When they see that they have that, they can then look for sponsors and look to go into Europe and try it. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but all professional sports is not easy, as you know. And that's the natural progression of any sport.
All right, Marco, just in closer. Okay, so Marco, thank you for that. But how can national federations support the feed into the vision of the Continental Federation?
Well, by being a member of FIM in Geneva, which is the body, they're automatically a member of FIM Africa. And with FIM Africa, we meet every year at the General Assembly. We have commissions for the various sports. There's a commission for enduro, commission for motocross, etc. So each federation can have a representative on the commission. So let's use motocross because today is motocross. So on the motocross commission of FIM Africa, we have a representative from each country. And then they can discuss ways to achieve those dreams and those goals for their riders. And this sport, you see, is a family sport. The youngest rider is 5 years old in the smallest class, the 50cc. And then it goes 65cc, then 125cc, then 250, then 450. And then the parents can still race in the masters and the vets. There's a situation, I think today, where we have a grandfather in the vets and their grandson is racing in the little ones. So very family orientated.
You are the president, and just asking you from a point of ignorance, can you just tell us your day-to-day duties and roles that you do as the president of FIM Africa?
Okay, I'm based in Lusaka. The secretariat or the secretary general is based in Johannesburg. Her name is Jackie Montero. So she's like the chief executive, and she runs the federation from Johannesburg on a daily basis. I communicate with her on a daily basis, on phone or email, and then we meet. We have an executive drawn from different countries on the main board. So we meet in Africa, either Zoom or face-to-face, 4 times a year. And that's the FIM Africa body. Then, as president of FIM Africa, I have to then sit on the board in Geneva, where all the presidents of the different continents sit. And so we meet there 4 times a year, and we discuss how to improve everything in the world in our sport. And that's basically, I mean, I'm a volunteer. We're all volunteers. I mean, nobody gets paid for the sport. It has to come from passion. And my passion started as a child racing motocross in Zambia.
Can you just tell us about it? Where have you been with this sport?
Well, I started in Zambia. We had national racing there. And as it grew up and Zimbabwe became liberated, so after 1980, when the border with Zambia and Zimbabwe opened, we started the Zam series. So before the Motocross of African Nations, in the 80s, in the 70s and 80s, we were coming up here to race motocross, and the Zimbabweans are coming to Zambia to race motocross, known as the Zam series. So that takes you back a long time ago, you know. So
that's some very good history we're getting from Marco here. But Marco, very lastly, 23rd edition. What would be your message to the riders that are here? And probably maybe these are not all the riders that you have in your federation here in Africa, but what would be your message on this 23rd edition of Motorsport of African Nations?
The main message is that when you race in any sport, you get overtaken by your senses and you can focus too narrowly. You have to remember safety and sportsmanship, because the sport must stay safe. You keep the sport safe, you can help it grow. Because if parents see a sport that is not well controlled and not well managed with regulations, they are frightened to put their children into the sport. But our sport is very heavily regulated for safety and sportsmanship. So those are the message which we always take to the riders: to be safe, to ride safely, to think safely, and to be sportsmanship. And there you are. If they can keep those 2 words in their mind, then the sport will grow.
Now, Marco, you spoke about Ugandan government coming in there to support the motorsport in Uganda. What would be your message to all other governments out there, maybe of the nations that are members to FIM Africa, in regards to the growth of motorsport?
Well, the message is that they mustn't just focus on the majority sports like soccer, etc., and football. The minority sports are very important. We don't want the children to diversify into other sports. And minority sports have bring their own benefits to any community, any country in prestige. And they should look at and see that they have children which are very talented. They won't be talented in football, but they can be talented in motorsport. And so to put some of their budget into motorsport and let it grow in their countries. Uganda never thought of motorsport, but now Uganda and Kenya are the biggest thinkers.
Thank you, Marco. I've been chatting to Marco, who's the president of FIM Africa. Thank you, Marco, for catching up with us on this first day of these competitions here in Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much, Justin. Thank you.
Okay. Marco, just hang on. I just want